forget to Hey everybody, you know where you are, the 9 at 9 with me, Tigo. And as always, I always start the show this way. I tell you, I'm bringing an expert to the show. Well, the show's called Expert Talk, so of course I'm bringing an expert to the show. But today is a little different because today we're bringing the #1 money mentor like in the whole world. You've been wanting to know how you make money, how you grow, yeah, he's here. Chris Naugle's here. Are you out there?
I'm here. Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being on the show. The #1 money mentor. Really?
I didn't come up with it. Somebody started calling me that, and then it just never stopped. And I'm like, ooh, that's a big shoe to fit into.
So if you're a money mentor, there's so many different ways to look at money. What kind of mentor? Are you teaching people how to invest? Are you teaching people how to grow their business? What exactly are you doing?
Yeah, specifically wealth. So we teach people the secrets of the wealthy. And it goes back, hundreds of years ago from the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the JPs, the Morgans. Heck, you can go back to the times of Babylon and, straight out of the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. The secrets that the wealthy use to build wealth is what we teach. And, I come from the Wall Street world, so I have lots of investment, experience over 16 years being there, but I'm no longer in that world. And I realized that the traditional financial knowledge that we've been taught our whole life, much of it is a lie. Much of it is there to get you to give up control of your money. And that's where people go wrong. We get so conditioned that we can't be a good steward of our money. So we give up control of our money to the banks, to Wall Street, and to others, when we should be the best steward of our money and learn how money works and also how wealth works. And if we literally just change one simple thing and follow 5 simple steps or 5 simple laws, we literally will be on the path that all the wealthy use to build, and not just build, but keep their wealth. Because, everybody right now is great at making money and building wealth, but they're not good at keeping it. They give it all back. And that's why they always say when someone has money, it always seems to go back to the same source. It's because we have not yet learned the secrets of wealth. And that's what we teach.
So one, The Richest Man in Babylon, it's a powerful little book. It's one of the first books. I'm dyslexic, so me sitting down reading a book is humongous. And it's one of the first books that I sat down and read not once, but twice. And I think I did it again a few years after that. For everybody out there, if you've never heard of it, go find it. It's an amazing book to just kind of get your brain going. What? Go get that book. Now, how important is it to be resourceful?
I think it's
and creative and all that. So what does being resourceful mean to you?
Well, let's talk. They're two totally separate things. So I think resourcefulness is really just our ability to stop focusing on what we have in the source of resources. Too many people think, I don't have the resources, so I can't do this or I can't do that. But I came from nothing and I didn't have resources. So I had to be resourceful. My mother always taught me, you got to go out and chase your dreams. And hey, I don't have the money to help you get there, so you're going to have to figure this out. So being resourceful is very much key, but too many people just sit back and they just expect things to come to them, when the people that create, so we'll turn over to creation, the creators go out there and figure it out and actually get resourceful. And that's one of the biggest things that really helps them get ahead and kind of get a jump start over everybody else. Creativity, single-handedly, I think one of the most important things. And I'm going to go back to, the secret, the strangest secret in the world, Earl Nightingale. Okay. That's another must watch or must read or listen. So in that, he talks about what is the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. There's only one difference in all of his studies. And the successful, we'll call them the 5%, because that's what it is. The 5% out there create. They create their financial destiny. They create something that changes other people's lives. They solve problems for people. When the other 95%, according to Social Security, out of 100 people, only 5 are going to be financially successful. That's the 5%. So what happened to those other 95%? It's simple. They conformed. They conformed to somebody else's ideology, somebody else's failed dreams. They didn't believe in their dreams, so they resorted to somebody else telling them what their life should look like. And that always leads, well, we all know where that leads. the
Yeah.
95%.
Yeah, nowhere. That's where that leads, is nowhere. It reminds me, every time I'm driving around town, we have double turning lanes. There'll be 15 cars in one turning lane and one in the car lane next to it. It's like, you do know we're going to the same place, but they just follow. It's like, why do you just follow the leader? Never mind. Don't get me started. We'll talk about this all day. Anyway, you said you come from nothing, but that is not necessarily true.
True.
Because you were a pro snowboarder.
That's correct.
A pro snowboarder. How did you do that? How do you go from snowboarding to finance and money? Okay, talk to me. I got it.
All right, so I'm going to do this really quick. So when I say I come from nothing, that is a false statement. Okay, I come from a lower middle class family, raised by my mom. My dad was an alcoholic, and we didn't have any money, so we barely were able to keep a 700 square foot 2-bedroom house over our heads. That's the struggle my mother had. So nothing is a false statement. But how did I get to where I was? Well, I watched my mother struggle, and I watched my mother save. She'd go out there and she'd work, and she'd take all of her change, and we'll go to the Babylon, right? 1/10 of your earnings. Let's just pretend that my mother, when she went out there and worked hard, she took 1/10 of her earnings, whether it was pocket change, dimes, quarters, and she put them in a giant glass jar. And I watched this as a kid. She wanted a lawnmower. She'd save all the money up in this glass jar. When there was enough, we'd roll it all up and we'd buy the lawnmower. And this is just what I got accustomed to. So then my mother bought me a little black box that had a slider top. And I'd go out and mow lawns, clean the neighbors' horse stalls or pig pens, and I'd make money and I'd put it in there. And that's how I bought dirt bikes and go-karts and the things that I wanted as a child.
Right.
So now let's kind of take that fast forward. So how did I become a pro snowboarder? I came from Buffalo, New York. So we had no lack of snow. We don't have mountains here. We're not the epicenter for snowboarding, but I watched one guy, okay, his name was Blair Russ, and I watched him become pro. And he was a guy that lived in my town. And I just simply said, what was his path? How did he do it? And I followed what he did, the success path, if you will. And I did what everybody else was unwilling to do. Now, I didn't have resources, so I had to be resourceful. I couldn't afford to go to the resorts. I couldn't afford new boards. So duct tape was an important thing. Used equipment was important. But I had this ravine by my house. It was a country club. And in the country club, they have sand traps. You've all seen them. I would go there and I would find the sand trap that was on the downslope of the hill, and I'd build a jump out of it. And that's how I learned all my tricks. So then how did I end up from snowboarder to Wall Street? Well, I had snowboard shops, another big dream that I started at 17 years old. And then all of a sudden I hit a recession, and that recession brought me to my knees. It was the .com crash, first one I'd ever seen. I needed to get a job. So Little Caesars Pizza, true story. I went there to get a job as a pizza delivery guy. I figured I'd work in my store in the day, deliver pizzas at night. They weren't hiring. I put my resume out, and the only people that called me were Wall Street firms. So that's how I entered the Wall Street world, and I rose to the top because I was willing to do what everybody else was unwilling to do. And that is my secrets to success in terms of entrepreneurship. And I've also taken that same approach when it comes to building wealth. You have to be willing to do what everybody else is unwilling to do, which means changing your mindset to start thinking like the wealthy, doing what the wealthy do, and following simple steps. One simple change, which you guys can get in my book or my website. There's one change that they do, and they change where their money goes first. And because of that, it puts them in control, and it earns uninterrupted compound interest. So now they've got money working for them. We all work for money. We got to start making our money work for us. But
wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I've got to ask you before we get out of here, because Alan's going to cut us off. I've got to ask you, what web address do they go to? Because some people may be listening instead of watching. Where do they go find you?
Yeah, go to chrisnaugle.com. And the biggest advice I can give you, and there's no sales here, okay? This is just education. Watch the 90-minute video on my website, which is chrisnaugle, Naugle.com. That 90-minute video changed my life, and it will change yours. But you got to give me 90 minutes. And that's the amazing gateway to success.
Man, we touched on this much. This 9 minutes went flying by. I know you have a mastermind program. They can go find out about that. You got, I saw money schools, that is, that you can go and learn all this stuff that Chris took years to learn. He's going to teach it to you. So go out there. Don't call Tigo. Go find Chris at Chris. Really, Alan, really. Go find Chris at chrisnaugle.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you'll come back next time. And as always, I'm Tigo. I'll talk to you next time. Really, Alan? For real, we were this close. Let's go.